Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Thomas from the Catnipper Tom YouTube channel. Today we're going to be going back into some train modification stuff today. I am working on some of these. These are Spokane Portland and Seattle IHC passenger cars. These are the smooth-sided cars. I know a little about these. These were old Riverossi toolings that they made into IHC. And these things are kind of on the cheaper end of passenger cars. There's not a lot of going on with them. They're plastic wheels, plastic trucks, no interiors. They're pretty bare bones. But I was able to acquire this whole passenger set a while back, and I'm finally deciding to kind of talk about them a little bit and do a little bit of upgrading, since you can see here I have the layout, and I would like to get at least a couple of them up and running. And I bought stuff for the entire train to be fully up, and metal wheels, new couplers, all that stuff. So we're going to do a little rehab on these and talk through. I know only a couple of people in the past have made videos about modifying and upgrading these cars, and I feel like some things were missed in those videos that I would have liked to have known. And I'm also doing some extra stuff that they did not do that I think would also be helpful for other people who acquire these IHC passenger cars. So let's get right into it. I'm going to talk about these and start modifying these just in a second. So, welcome to the workbench. This is how we're going to shoot this video, because this is a quick and dirty video, and I want to get this done so we can upload it and get this to you guys as quick as possible. So we'll talk about all the workbench, we'll talk about the layout another time. But today we want to focus on this. These are my IHC passenger cars. These are the smooth side cars. These were apparently a former Riverossi tooling that IHC took over. And these are a great low tier to mid tier passenger train set that you can get. There's not a lot of detail. These have plastic wheels, as you see here, with the metal ends. So they roll all right, but they could roll better. These also have the horn hooks as the couplers, and no interiors, no interior lighting, and really nothing, pretty bare bones in the model world today. I think this is kind of an underserved market in today's model railroading hobby, because these low tier, mid tier trains are being taken over by all the high price, high detail trains. And for a guy who just wants to run trains, this is a great option. So the one we're looking at right here is a sleeper car. This is the Portland number 366. And this thing, great. I have about 8 of these cars, which make up a whole train. So we'll be slowly upgrading these over time. So, how are we upgrading these exactly? Well, let's show you an example. I already have gone through the process of upgrading one. Here is my observation car. So, this is going to be at the end of your train. It's got the red plastic back there. I have not done anything to the interior other than put a couple of washers in here to weigh it down a little bit more. But other than that, this is kind of what I'm looking for here. So, on this, we're going to keep the horn hooks. We're going to keep the horn hooks on most of the train because these over here, these McHenry couplers are very expensive. For a pair, they are $10, and that is insane. Couplers are very insanely expensive in general, which I think is wild, but it makes sense. Upgrading everything to Katie's is just so nice, and they function so much better. So it's worth the price, but on a whole 8 passenger train set, that's like $80, and I've already paid quite a bit of money to get these upgrades going on the trains themselves. So if I can reuse these ones that already came on the one car we're going to be talking about today and just put them at the head of a train and run the whole consist, I'll be fine to just use horn hooks, I think. If that becomes a problem, I'll slowly upgrade them down the line, but at the moment, that's going to be our solution. So, what exactly was done to these? We got metal wheels on these guys. These are the Walthers wheels. We have, instead of the pin, which I have right here, they have these plastic pins holding in the trucks. I purchased nuts and some screws to get them in, to set them in better so I can reuse them and fix them and not have these pins breaking all the time, because I've broken a couple of them already. Not cool. And that's kind of all I've done to these. I'm looking for simplicity and just running simplicity. So that's what I'm looking for in these future cars. So let's set this back up on the layout. And let's talk about the car we'll be working on in this video. I think this is a decent car to kind of all encompass some things and also cover some things that others have not, right? I think other people have covered upgrading these cars, but I feel like this was left out of some of the videos that I watched. So let's chat. So here is the Vistadome car. That's what we're going to be talking about today. And unlike all of the other cars, I've worked on 2 others at the moment. Both of them have had this gray part come off, and the Vistadome car having this dome prohibits that. So I was trying to figure out how I could get the bottom of the car off, and let me tell you how I got it done. So these are not being held the same way as the other cars. For example, this observation car is being held up with tabs. You can see them here, 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 and here. There are 6 tabs, 3 on each side, and it comes up. When this roof piece comes out, it comes out with the roof and the plexiglass or plastic, transparent plastic inside. Really helpful for getting inside, not really having to mess with this whole part. In this case, since we have the dome, this roof is not going to come out. So without having those tabs and having this plexiglass plastic stuck to the base, they have to fit it in another way. And the tabs that they use to fit it into the top shell are the windows on both the ends. I had to do a lot of trial and error and investigating and figure out what was keeping them in, and it was these. This took me way too long to figure out, and it's really wild that a detail part that you can easily scratch and make really, really bad looking. It can look really bad and foggy once you scratch it up. Nevertheless, really dumb. That's how you get these out. I used some of these glue spreaders to spread out the sides and try and finagle my way in there and pushing in with a flathead, this guy, and doing my best not to scrape this plastic. So let's talk about the upgrades that I do when I'm actually working on this. So what I end up doing to each one of these cars is, with these trucks, I've been taking off all the wheels because these wheels are trash. I don't want plastic wheels. I like the sound of metal wheels on my track, so I take them out. And now we're left with just the truck. You can take out the coupler in here. All of these are going to come with horn hooks that are the exact same thing. Just pull these out. Watch the pins on the inside. They're under here. You can see them there. Those pins are what keeps this centered. So you're going to watch those when you're pulling it out, but really easy process. Do not nick this at all. That is what holds the pin in, what holds the coupler in. So do not modify this. I made the mistake on one of my other cars, and ultimately it's fine. I was able to fix it and do something else with it. So anyway, working on these trucks, because I want to remove these pins. These plastic pins suck. These fingers break off of them. These fingers break all over the place. So they either snap in or they snap out. Then you're down. You can't secure these. What I've done is I've gone on to the interweb and found these shoulder screws. These are hex nut shoulder screws. I have the information for them somewhere around here. Let's look at. Okay, so these are M3 by 4 by 10 millimeter hex button head shoulder screws. They come in 6 packs. I bought mine from Dollar Hobbies with a Z, like trains with a Z.com. And I also bought these M3 nuts to go with them. The reason why I had to get these shoulder screws is because of this shoulder right here. That way, when I put the screw inside of the truck, which I can't at the moment, it pivots on that shoulder and it's not rubbing on this. That is why these are pretty much necessary if you want reliable running and you don't want to wreck the truck too much. So, as you can see, these are slight oversize on these trucks. So what I've been doing is something that I wouldn't recommend you to do, but if you're in a pinch and this works and you have a similar setup to me where you're trying to be cheap, I've been using this drill. I have a DeWalt drill with a Hobby Lobby file on it. So you can get this standard orange pack of files from Hobby Lobby. They come with a bunch of different files. I'm using the kind of triangular one, essentially as a drill bit. If you have drill bits, which I do not have drill bits of a good size to use for this, I would go ahead and recommend just using a drill bit. It would be so much easier. But this works great too. I found this process is really easy. So let's move these out of the way and show you. All I do is I get my drill. We're moving, we're rolling. Put the tip in here, and we're just gonna drill slowly, and then pass through like that, just like you're drilling anything else. And makes a little bit of plastic mess, but essentially I just filed out the inside, bored it out a little bit to make it bigger. And this should be perfect for me to fit this shoulder screw in. It is about the perfect size that I'm wanting for the shoulder screw. So I fit that in there, get the body, do the exact same thing to in here, because these are going to be a similar width, similar diameter. So get that drill in here and right. You see we got some, this one is a little different with that plexiglass, or with, essentially plexiglass. And when I go and do, because you can see there's a little lip there that was created by the hole. I've been just getting my Dollar Tree wood cutting tools. Just trying to trim just a little bit off. There we go. So now it's flush. You can see that it's more of a flush instead of being slightly raised, because it will eventually be a little bit raised once I bore that one out. And it pulls out some of that plastic since it's kind of heating it. And then what you're going to do is put on our coupler here with our truck, grab our shoulder screw, put it in this way, and see, now we have the screw sticking out. Keeping my finger in it, grab my M3 nut, get it on there close enough. Now I'm going to grab this. This is the M5.5 kind of socket deal. I have the Hobby Lobby screwdriver, small and bunch of bits set right off to the side. I just use that to kind of get it on there. Tighten it up. Now, I want to check if the friction is, you want a little bit of friction, but not too much, because the truck does need to pivot. You might need to mess with it a little bit. to get that truck even. See? And that's great. It's a little bit of friction, but it definitely will ride on the rails good enough and make it through your curves. So that's the big thing, the big modification that I've been doing to the bodies. Now I'm going to take this out because I need to work on the trucks themselves. So we're going to unscrew that. And this is the exact reason why I want to work on getting different screws in here, is so I can take these in and out and make it easier to repair. So let's talk about the trucks. So with the trucks, we're going to be doing a very similar thing. So first things first, I took off all the wheels. They're all gone. And I'm going to use the drill again to get right into that hole. Maybe I'm going to clean off that a little bit, but we'll be fine. Just get right into that hole and bore it out just like we did with the last one. And then we'll do it again with this guy. Stick it in there. And bore it out. So now, both of these should fit. So, we have both of these bored out. Now we're going to work on getting these wheels in. Now, these plastic wheel sets compared to the Walthers wheel sets are very close. So, I've measured them. They are about the same, just ever so slightly wider. And you can see the tips right there are also different shape. This one has a more conical shape, where this one has more of the bar and then the cone. So what we're going to have to do to get these to fit is we're also going to have to bore these out. So I will say the best thing to use is probably one of those Micromark truck tuners. However, I have been on the list waiting to figure out when they're going to come back in stock. They've been out of stock. Lots of people complain about them not having that much stock, so they're hard to get. They're also like $30. They're like $25-$30. Little ridiculous if you ask me for essentially what the tool I'm going to bring up is. So, but I will say, they are the best thing for this job, and it is a little bit of a time waster what I'm going to do, and I think with that tool this would be so much easier. However, that tool is also like $25, and they're also out of stock everywhere, so I'm not going to spend the money to go figure out how to get one of these and you know, all that. I'm a little bit in a pinch. I'd like to get this done sooner rather than later. But anyway, so what I've been doing is I created this tool here. So this is essentially going to be what the Micromark deal is, the Micromark truck tuner. However, it's not as good. It's very rudimentary, and it does about a 90, not even 90, like an 80% good enough job. It's also not terribly easy, like I assume the Micromark truck tuner would be. So it is a self-tapping screw with some duct tape around it. The screw head is right here. I've cut off the screw head and just essentially sanded it, filed it down to be a point at the end so it can sit inside of the truck. So what we're going to want to do here is grab our truck. The truck has these holes right here that we want to get out. we want to make a little bit bigger and a little bit deeper so our metal wheels can fit. So all you do, like I just did, is grab this, whichever side, this is going to be the drill side, slip that into the hole, to the hole that you're drilling, grab the other end, slot it in, and we're going to rotate just like this. It's not easy. You kind of also have to push the sides of the trucks in so you can actually get good clean contact with that bit. And I like going both ways because it can be a little hard to remember which side's cutting, but also, you can just switch up motions, and I think that's pretty easy. So what eventually ends up happening is this guy, see, gets some of the black out, and it starts boring this hole out. One note of just a word of the wise here. In the past, in a previous one that I've tried to do, I've tried to use pin vise bits, and they have not been very successful. I have also, on another one that I kind of screwed up, I decided I was going to drill through both sides of the couplers, so those points at the end of the Walther's metal wheel could stick out a little bit, and you can see them running. So like sometimes you see on really high scale, like scale trains or other really nice HO scale diesels, you'll see the rolling coupler box or the rolling truck box that'll spin with the truck. Trying to get an idea of that going on in this. That will not work. It will mess up most of what you're doing here. What happens is the hole, at least in my case, is the hole that I bored was too big, and this can move side to side freely in the truck. And what happens is it either goes too far one way and slips down, so you have an uneven wheel going on one side, or the other way, because it isn't really a conical shape in the box, the axle box. So what this tool ends up doing is making that kind of cone shape, so it helps the wheels roll in the right spot. Another thing that I was doing before I had cut the tip off that and done duct tape, that also worked out pretty well, is I also have one of these self-tapping screws just regularly, and I would put it inside this, lay it on top of the other axle box, just like how we did, set it in lay it on top, and then use a screwdriver to twist it and push it in, and that works out really well as well. I have found that once you get deep enough on either side with these, it doesn't fit very well, and you can't apply pressure. So the last truck I did, I used this screw to finish it off and get to the correct wheel spinning amount. So it takes a long time to bore both of these sides out. This process is slow and tedious because you got to fit it in, twist on both sides, go in, put the wheel in, see if it spins, and then repeat until you have great friction with these. So I'm not going to bore you with that. I will just cut forward to when I have these all dialed in. And we are back. Okay, there's the aftermath. So in doing this process, this is like the second set of trucks that I have done, and I figured I'll tell you a little bit about the process that I have figured out that works best for me. So with the one self-tapping screw that I modified with the duct tape and the bevel the other side. I've used this to start the holes. So what I'll do is I'll insert this into where the axle box is, twist it a few times in both directions, probably like 10, 15 times in the drilling motion, and that would create a good starter hole for the axle boxes for the new wheel sets. Then I would come in and use my screwdriver with the other screw and give it a good little twist, twist, twist with a lot of pressure going into that axle box. What would result in all of this, but in a very, very smooth running wheel set. So I do it load of times, test the fit, check the spin, and if it spins pretty freely like it is now, then we're good to go, and then move on. So I have both of these trucks done, and now we're gonna go and install them onto the Vistadome car. Okay, after a little bit of cleanup of the workspace, now we're going to fit everything back together into the package. So let's start one truck. We'll grab our screw with the shoulder and throw it in where it's supposed to be. Grab one of our nuts. These nuts are not easy to fit on there, but we'll get it. Alright, hand fit it, and then we'll grab essentially what we're using as our socket. Holding that nut from the underside, get it tight, and now you can see the axle is not moving without a little force, so I'm going to back it off until, see, that's good. That's enough movement, that's enough play. So we'll work with that. And the good thing is, over time, if there becomes a little bit too much play, I can just adjust them and tune them. So, alright, one side in, shoulder screw, throwing that in. Let's grab our nut and hand fit it. Hand fitted. Grab our small socket. Okay, now it's tight. Feeling it out. Backing it out. Back it out a little bit more. Okay. Oh, a little bit more resistance to it. There. Okay. Now, this car, I think, weighs a good amount with all of the glass and the second level and everything in mind. I'm not going to add weight to it. I think it's fine. So we're going to slap this guy back on. I feel like this should be easy. You just press in on the side. I haven't done this yet, so yep, there you go. One side's in. Snapped into place. Wheels are rolling good. And there we are. Now, with this all outfitted and good, let's go give it a roll test on the layout. Okay, so here we have the Vistadome all set up on the temporary track on the layout, and we're just gonna give it a little push and see how well it's rolling. So let's give it a little. And I would say with that light of a push, that is pretty solid. Pretty freely rolling, pretty loosey-goosey. So, and into the yard we go. Yeah, that's pretty good. Look at that. rolling well and rolling smooth. This car is all tuned up and ready to roll. So good job on this one. And there we have it. Rolls well, works well. So that's the video on modifying these IHC smooth side passenger cars. I just wanted to share this and get this out here so other modelers out here who are working with these IHC cars know there's at least some things that you can do with them to make them a little bit more robust and bring them up to modern standards. I know in my research, nobody was really doing exactly or sharing what they were doing exactly what I was doing to these cars. So I feel like this could be helpful to more people down the line. So if you found this helpful, or if you like this video, please consider giving it a like. Subscribe to the YouTube channel to follow more of the shenanigans that are going on here. Hopefully I'll be talking about this whole situation later on. But yeah, anyway, thanks guys for watching. Have a great rest of your day.